Greetings, mortals, and welcome. Please present your tickets for validation. Thank you. Your existence has been acknowledged, and you have been granted access every Thursday and Friday. You will be accompanying your guides, Krista and Brandy, along with a world-renowned guest. They will be exploring an intriguing tendril of what humans refer to as reality each week, as they strive to advance you further down the path to the truths of your physical earth and what lies on the other side. Remember to please keep your hands and feet in the vehicle at all times, and do not exit until the craft has come to a complete stop.
I love it. Welcome, everybody. Happy Thursday. Krista's not with us tonight. She's under the weather, so we will miss her, and prayers going out to her, to, for a quick recovery, like tomorrow.
Yeah,
like
right.
Tomorrow. She's not allowed to be sick. Anyway, so we're here, and we'd like to thank everybody for showing up. I see that chat is moving really fast, and thank you very much. So anyway, my week has been pretty good. We've talked about it. This is my second time on today. I was on with Bigfoot Michigan Rob on the brunch show today, and Tex has graciously accepted an invite to come and be my co-host with me tonight. Thank goodness.
I am co-host tonight.
He's the co-host.
Yeah.
So surprise. And we're waiting on Josh to get here. He's a very busy man. He'll show up when he can get here, so that's not a problem. Do you want me to do the channel line up there, Tex?
Hey, go for it. I screwed it up so bad last time I tried. When me and Monica was doing the porch, oh my God, I apologize to you because I screwed it up so bad. So bad.
That's all right. I mean, we do say it on every show. So, I mean, people know when we're on, but just for those who don't, on Mondays at 7 p.m. Central, it's Danielle Diva in the Diva Dimension. At 8 p.m., it is Texas Front Porch, and that's, of course, with Tex and myself. On Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Central, it is Beyond BMR with his co-host, Krista. Wednesday nights at 7 p.m., it's Donnie Cho Says Stuff. And at 8 p.m., it's Inhumanoids with Barton Nunnelly and his wife, Letitia. On Thursdays at 12 p.m., that is Central Time, no matter what Rob says. It's 12 p.m. Central. It is Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Thursday evenings, of course, it's us, Blondes and Booze, at 8 p.m. Central. On Friday, it is 7 p.m. Central for Blondes and Booze, so don't forget the time change. We have no shows currently on Saturday, but one of our good friends, Paul with Paranormal Among Us, is on Saturday nights. On Sundays at 5 p.m. Central, it is Truth or Tinfoil with myself and Randy Gilbert. And at 6 o'clock, Tex and Danielle Diva have their newest episode of Infamous Minds. But don't forget, starting March 21st, that is on a Thursday at 7 p.m., Monica Rollins will be doing her new show, Our Paranormal World. I've got to get that one down. But she, so stay tuned for that. She will be on Texas Front Porch. So if you don't have your notification bell touched, hit, clicked, whatever, do that now. And we're all glad you're here.
Yeah, because you don't want to miss that one. Monica's fantastic. And we are not broadcasting to Facebook. Facebook decided not to broadcast us tonight. I got a big notification when we started the show.
That's a hit or miss. I think that both of these platforms have a love-hate relationship, and it's just they love to hate each other.
Well, and y'all were talking backstage about how Facebook's been acting goofy anyway. So
right. Yeah, it's just not been acted on ever since the 2024 cell phone debacle, and then the Facebook crash of 2024. I don't think
Yeah.
anything's acting right now. It's just all kinds of crazy, and I'm getting messages 30, 40 minutes late. It's taken them that long to transfer. I mean, it's just crazy stuff. Just crazy stuff. But then
Yeah,
again,
I'll
could
tell
be
you, me and
something.
Monica,
Go ahead.
even though I screwed the show announcement stuff up, we had a fantastic show. It was a fun one. We were all over the map, and we've got a very, very cool show coming up next week on the porch. The Dogman Roundtable panel show. So, Josh will be there. I'm pretty sure Barton's going to be there. So it will be me and you and Josh and Barton. I think I'm pretty sure.
Barton, if you're listening.
Yeah. Or Letitia, let me know if I'm
you're
screwing
not
up.
aware.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to that one because it's always an interesting conversation because we have different views on it, and even though I'm kind of leaning towards their view, not quite. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting conversation for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a great show. It is going to be a great show. So
Barton says, first I'm hearing of it, bro. Well, if you can make it, please show up. How's that? I'll send you an invite, and if you can make it, make it. If not, I'm sure.
And bring Letitia.
Sure
I'm going to need some help.
I'll try to bring Josh out of his shell. He's so timid and hard to get to talk, but I'll do my
He's
best
so shy.
to bring him out of it. I know. I'll give him a hug. He'll be okay.
Oh my goodness. Well, we might as well get on with this show. We're keeping Brian back there an awfully long time.
Brian's enjoying watching the show from backstage. He hadn't said, "Hey, come and let me up" or nothing like that. So,
he's like us. He likes to talk too.
Yeah.
Never a dull moment. I mean,
right. Let's get him up here because he was telling us about some stuff, and I don't know if he's going to let it go public or not. But I'm going to put him in the barrel and see what he says.
I'm in the barrel now. This is great. This is perfect. I was just cracking
up the barrel.
Martin, it's like first time I'm hearing of it, but I'll be there. Yeah, no, this is great. Josh Turner shy. Yeah, very, very shy.
He is. I mean, you have to coax him, and
Josh is freaking awesome, and he's about as shy as I'm a swimsuit model. Ain't gonna happen.
And you pull it off damn good.
I do. I got the legs for it apparently. But I was when you were mentioning when we were talking about backstage, you want the craft, do you want the remote view, do you want the meditation? Where do you want me to start? Because I'm pretty good because I'll go any direction you want me to.
Well, let's talk about can we talk about what you've seen recently?
Sure, the UFOs.
Yeah.
Sure. I don't have them all queued up right now. I mean, I could probably look for them, but
people can use their imaginations. Go ahead.
Yeah, there. If you go to, I think it's Bryan Bowden at Bryan Bowden or Sir Bryan Bowden on YouTube. I'm putting everything on my own channel. It was December 10th, and I went out to get some. We needed to pick up some groceries for the coming week. I was with my little one. She's 12. And I'm in Florida, so I'm near Wellington, and we come out of the parking lot.
We won't hold that against you, Brian.
I won't hold that against me either, but it's better than New York. A lot better, although we drive better up north. But so I come out, we get to a traffic light, and it's really, really light because it's like that Christmas time of year, and everybody's kind of like hanging with friends and get the cheer going. And we're at the light. And no other traffic on this main thoroughfare. And I'm looking up and I see these 3 bright red craft flying in a delta. So there's a point and then 2 at the end. And it's bright enough where I've seen enough UFOs, but I've also seen enough of the drones that we have out there, like DJIs and stuff. And when you see a DJI drone, it's so much larger and brighter. It kind of had that feel like, is it a drone? Is it not a drone? I'm trying to figure it out. And then the rightmost point, which is closer to me, that red split into 2, and I'm like, that's not a drone. And I'm fumbling for my phone, and my youngest is like, Dad, what's wrong? I'm like, film out the window. Just film out the window. These kids have the phones on them 24/7. She's like, hear them. What? I'm just take your camera and film out the window. I'm trying to get my phone out.
I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Oh, we can hear you.
Huh?
We can hear you, Josh. I brought the Puckies for you just in case.
So that's the one thing we don't have.
He can't hear us yet. I think.
Actually, I used to know a little bit of sign language and not the good stuff. It's just the curses, just the curses. But so I see this craft separate, and I'm fumbling for my phone, and I'm just getting up there, and I got a little bit of tail end, and they're all fluid in movement. Okay, not like any plane. Matter of fact, the pattern they were going is south to north, and very rarely, I always, being a UFO investigator and the paranormal guy, you know where certain patterns are in traffic. You know where the local airport is. No sound, nothing. So they're moving up north in the diamond, and then right behind them are 4 more in the diamond. Another, pattern of delta. And I'm filming. I wanted to stop the car, but some idiot pulled behind me, so I had to go when the light turned green, and I'm filming with it going out the window. And we stopped at one point, and I said, they can't have, they couldn't have gotten far. I looked at my daughter. I'm going, we're going to go on the highway now, honey. And she's like, okay. But I figured, no, let's go on a darker road. We went down a darker road, gone, because the darker road paralleled. It went from south to north, very dark, and it was open enough where you could see full sky. This thing was gone in an instant. So I'm like, oh my God. And my youngest has heard so much of my stuff. She goes, well, maybe they went through a window. And what she meant was a portal. And I was like, wow, this kid's getting it. And she was so excited because normally she's afraid of these things, especially when I talk about the Dogman. I got to be very careful because she's like, at night before she goes to bed and she's praying, she's like, don't let the Dogman get us. And I'm like, nah, the Dogman's not going to come down here, honey. But her fears outweigh it. She knows what I describe. So she's like, oh my God, I can't believe I saw my first UFO. She went to give me a fist bump. I said, you didn't see 1, honey. You saw 7. Boop. And we did it. Right. So a couple weeks go by, and it's December 29th, and the kids are up in school. So my youngest decides to have 4 of her other friends over, 12-year-old girls. I go outside of my back porch, Tex, because I'm like, my wife can deal with them. And I'm sitting there, I'm just, relaxing, just doing some videos or playing, some music and looking up some guitar stuff. Around 10:30, and I decide I got to come back in to go get another drink. And as I get up to turn, I look out. Now coming west to south is the same type of object. It started off as red, and it had like this orangish glow to it, but this thing had almost spikes coming off of it. Okay. Weird. And it wasn't that your eyes were reflecting in the light. There was like a spike. It was definitely disfigured. Pulled out the phone and I started videotaping immediately. And in the videotape, I'm yelling, Jordan to my youngest. And she comes out and she goes, they're back, and I'm like, yeah. And I'm videotaping. And then her friends come out. And like, what is it? And I said, it's a UFO. How do you know it's a UFO? And thank God for my youngest. Like, that's what my dad does. He's a professional, right? So thank you. Got a little extra, But one of the girls started getting nervous because it was a UFO. But it lasted about 2 minutes and change. I have it on video, and it went south, and then it went and poof, it was gone. So I'm like, it's enough that you see one UFO, but to have a double encounter, probably 2 weeks apart from each other, really fantastic. Okay. I mean, it just doesn't really happen that way.
Mm-hmm.
Forward a little bit, New Year's, right? They talk about the the New Year's Day extraterrestrials in Miami at the mall, the Bayside Mall that was down there. And I'm like, my buddy's like, what's going on with those 8 to 10 foot extraterrestrials at the Bayside Mall? And I'm like, what are you talking about? So I look it up, and there's a whole incident in Miami. People are in the mall. There were some kids that were being hooligans. And basically what happened is people started going crazy and was reporting 8 to 10 foot aliens, extraterrestrials in the mall chasing them. So I'm all in. I'm going to go visit, and I'm going to go check this out. And I start researching it. And over time, some video comes out. There were more police officers sent to that mall in Miami, at Bayside Mall, than were during the insurrection of January 6th. Think about that. There's like 67 police cars, 2 cops in each car, for an incident at the mall. Some kids, that were lighting off fireworks. On top of that, as you start investigating it, some people, everybody, all the video cameras and the feeds that were going on at the mall were gone magically. The same time that happened, they shut the air traffic down over Miami. Nothing was coming in and out. Reports of black helicopters over the mall. No other traffic. Okay. A blackout to over 61,000 residents in the area. They shut the power off. But they tell you, oh, nothing happened. It was just some hooligan kids, and they were lighting fireworks. Doesn't gel, right? So I'm starting to investigate. I see some of the footage. I'm looking through the footage with a fine-tooth comb, and lo and behold, on the outside of the mall, you see what would be equivalent to 8 to 10 foot slender extraterrestrial walking at one point. I did post that video as well online. And you never would have seen it because the way these creatures were described, they were glitching as they were getting closer. So they were going in and out, and almost like an act of camouflage. Some people said it was like the Predator. Okay, think about that cloaking type of ability. And people were running, and as they ran and they glitched, there was a certain distance between them. When they glitched back in, they were closer. So that's going on. There's reports from people seeing different vantage points, some kids, what looks like a portal opening up on one of the levels, the bottom level. These kids are playing with something that looks like, he said, like an old boom box. The next thing, it starts sparking, the lights start flickering out, and these things start stepping out of the boom box. Like a portal opens up. This is eyewitness accounts. So I'm like, I got to go investigate this more. And I find 2 people that were willing to talk to me. At one point, I have a couple of people I know in Miami. I said, you got to get me some people there. I want to go talk to them off the record if they want. I just got to know what's going on. They were going to talk to me. They said, we can't talk to you anymore. We were contacted by the authorities, and they told us if we talk to anybody, they're going to make our lives difficult. They also said and confirmed exactly what was going on when people left the mall and it was surrounded by police. No one was allowed to leave that mall without their phone being checked by the police. They had to unlock their phones, and things were being deleted.
Whoa.
Right. So everybody's like, oh, it's a hoax. It's, it's crazy. It's a hoax. And I'm like, you know what? I don't think so. There's too many variables there that elicit a certain response militarily.
Right.
What I personally think happened is, and this is going to go into something we're going to talk about a little bit later anyhow. We've been having a lot of coronal mass ejections from the sun. It's 11-year period. It's really bad now. We're at a point where we may have a Carrington event, and a Carrington event is when it fried everything on Earth, all the telegraph lines. It could fry your electronics. It's a really bad event if it gets too powerful down here. And what I think actually happened, from my just personal theory or assessment, is that because of all the activity outside our planet, there was a craft of beings that were trying to go to a certain point. And someone pointed out that if you took the reverse of the GPS coordinates for that mall and you flipped it, it took you to Antarctica. So hang on to that for a second. So my whole theory is there was extraterrestrials, interdimensionals kind of come down here. They wanted to be up in Antarctica for whatever their reasons are. And I think we may all have a kind of an idea of what's going on in Antarctica, right? And they got hit by some, solar flares, and all the energy from that, it confused their electronics and sent them down to Miami. When they came out, they were like, where the hell are we? Type of thing. So that was the event. But I think it was all tracked by our government. You don't shut down airspace. You don't shut off the power to over 61,000 people and residents in buildings if it's just 15 kids lighting off fireworks and harassing customers. It doesn't make sense, and it still doesn't make sense. So that was that. And it's still, in my opinion, an open-ended investigation. Things are, you got to wait sometimes because you need like that. I don't want to use the term sorbet, but you need a certain amount of time in between an event where people kind of forget really quick, and then some new stuff will start popping out. And I'm waiting for the new videos to come out or someone, to leak something, because it just seems like that will be happening. But what? Go ahead. Sorry.
I heard all kinds of theories about what happened there. They said it was like that that was basically their riot response, that there was a bunch of kids doing stuff and they were afraid that it was going to get worse because they were also vandalizing. So it was just their riot response. But they did interviews with people coming out of the mall. These could be all set up, who knows? But they were just like, oh yeah, there was kids there, blah, blah, blah. They didn't mention anything about.
So in some of the original stuff that started flying out, like there were people videotaping from, I guess, apartment buildings around the complex. And where there was people videotaping from the apartment complex. And then there was some people, the man on the street view. And in the man on the street view, someone literally took the video and all they did was get rid of the color, went to black and white to get all the other, things out of your view. And you can literally see something that has to be at least 10 feet tall, and it's walking and then it disappears. So yes, they're going to interview people and they're going to put people, there was nothing, just some hooligans at the mall. Well, in a couple of the videos where people were recording, trying to, pick up their kids, you can hear on the radio, the 911 dispatcher talking about people reporting extraterrestrials. So there was reports of it. I tried to put a Freedom of Information request in for the 911 tapes. I don't think at all. So I'm still investigating. I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting. And I've got patience because I have 2 daughters. I have to have patience. And it's going to happen. But on top of that, so there's the December 10th, December 29th, January 1st. Now, at the beginning of February, I had to go back up to New York to get some surgery done on my mouth because it's a hell of a lot cheaper up there than this down here. And I'm talking to a friend of mine on the phone who's a psychic out of Canada, and we're just chit-chatting on the way up, and it's dark, and we get up into Georgia on 95 near Jekyll Island, and in the 11 o'clock position I see the same type of orangey craft, but it's like fading in and fading out, right? Fading in and fading out. It's 11 o'clock. And I'm watching it for a bit. And then another one comes in, fading in and fading out. Now, I know what radio towers look like. And I know a lot of you guys that, Josh probably seen the radio towers of Texas. I've seen some of the largest ones in Connecticut. They blink on and off, the red lights or the white lights. This is an orangey light, kind of like that $10 donation today for that chat. Keep them coming for them. And it's fading in and out. And it's now 2 of them doing it together. And I'm like paying attention to it. And I'm like, what the heck is that? And then it fades out. And then the one that's on the right goes away. And the one on the left appears. And it comes in and out. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm telling, she's like, what the hell's going on? I said, there's this craft up there. And it's fading in and out. And then it went to the left side. So now there's 2 of them on the left. And then they come back on. And then in between them is another craft. And it's doing this back and forth between the 2 of them. And I'm witnessing this. I'm like, you have to see this. And then I look over and I remember on my dashboard, I have a dashboard camera, recording thing. I always record my trips, long trips. And I'm like, I got this bastard dead to rights. This is the greatest video. This is going to be awesome. And I was explaining the whole thing to him. I get back to the hotel, check in, whip out the computer, pop out that chip, put it in. And I'm like, I'm going to kill myself. My card, which was 256 gigabytes, was used up and it started re-recording over the last one because I never changed the date and I never cleared any space. I had this thing dead to rights. And this happens all the time. There's somebody in there. I think his name is Al Sanariga or something in your chat.
Yeah, something like
Some
that.
guy like that.
Something like that guy. We can't tell you how many times we've been on an investigation. We had things dead to rights. We had the SD cards, no electronics involved. It's just like it literally puts it on solid state. It's perfect. Shouldn't be an issue. I've never had a dead card before. We recorded these things, gone. We get a Bigfoot whoop that would reverberate your chest. We got it. I got the recorder in my pocket. Error. And you're like, okay, I got it. You want to make our lives really tough. Gotcha. And, it's so frustrating. I've been looking for another kind of video system that I can use on investigation. I'm even thinking, with the exception of the fact you need some kind of internet connection, a ring or something else where you can connect to it would be great. But everything requires an internet connection. I mean, I'm not going to call up like AT&T and like, yeah, we're going out to the woods and we need you to get one of your tech guys out here and just put up a hotspot,
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I
please.
mean, and that's the problem with a lot of this stuff because it is based on the internet. And it would be great if we had internet in certain areas. You could set up Ring cameras. I keep telling Al, he has these things going on in his house. I'm like, dude, go on the roof, put a couple of those waterproof Ring cameras pointing down and go record whatever comes in your house. He goes, I don't want to see what it is. And he's kind of right. When you're in your house, you don't want to, you know what? Even though we investigate this stuff, do you really want to see a 12-foot werewolf?
He's right.
Back door. You don't.
Yeah.
No.
You're absolutely right. I want to say something, Brian, to that effect. In the house that I lived in here in Austin, down in South Austin, I didn't want to know the history of it, and I didn't find out the history of it until like 3 years after I'd moved out. Then somebody gave me the history of it, and then I was like, okay. And I just didn't care to know. I get what Al's coming from. I've talked to Al and you both many times, and Al's an experiencer for sure. And but Brian, the important question is, why don't you guys have like a podcast, YouTube? What are you guys doing? You have all this information.
Well, it's really funny you said that. We used to do something. We used to call it the Bronxville Paranormal Society in cooperation with the New York State UFO Project and all this stuff. I did a video. I posted it recently. We haven't done it in a while because Mr. I'm Retired has done like 150 interviews last year, but we can't figure out a way to get it. And I say we're doing it. We're doing a show now because there were a lot of fun, a lot of information, and we're going to start doing something. Like I told him I'll bring cannolis and we'll be fine.
Get the lemon ones. I have a friend who is
lemon cannolis are interesting.
They're good. And we went to what's it called? Right outside of San Francisco. Starts with an F. Something City. What's it called? Oh my gosh. Anyway, the place has the best cannolis. I was in California and I had to stay and it was a pretty clean city. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. And they had the best cannolis, and he got offended because he's straight up Italian. He got offended that I ordered the lemon one.
Well, yeah, you know what? I think in most Godfather movies, if you brought a lemon cannoli, you may be sleeping with the fishes. You may be with Mo Green at that point,
Maybe.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a really stupid question here.
What's a cannoli?
No, I know what a cannoli is.
I'm joking.
But what flavor are they normally?
It's the cheese that they use to make it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like
a cream cheesy type, whatever. Yeah.
Pastry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you could use, a lot of people like to put, some of them will put, I think pistachio in it, or they'll put some kind of nuts or chocolate chips. But the purest is just the straight up cannoli, and it has to be the shell that goes around it really should be made at the same time, because it's supposed to have a crunch, not kill your teeth or
Foster City.
The
best cannoli I ever had. It was a little place in Foster City. I think if you just look up cannolis Foster City, it'll come right up. And I should have remembered that because we're talking about aliens, and I had a pale crawler story. From Foster City, because I'd mentioned it one day, and somebody was telling me, and the guy that we were with, his last name was Lucchese. So that's not a gangster Italian name, but
the boot guy
really
or
like,
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I got some
Lucchese boots.
Those are good boots.
I wanted the lemon one, and Scorpion got the regular one like he did, so he was okay with him, but he was mad at me for the rest of the day. Not mad, he just kind of was like, I'll take you over here to this place.
Well, since we're talking about aliens and UFOs and stuff,
yes.
let me. We went, me and Pops and Ranger, we all went camping and fishing this last weekend. And me and Pops were sitting down on the river and we're fishing. This is on the Red River in Oklahoma. And he sees this thing up in the sky. And a lot of air traffic around that area. Okay, you got a lot of major airports, flying around. So I normally don't. I'm not much of a UFO looking guy. Okay, I'm really not. I'm looking in the trees, but he catches this thing up in the sky, and it was just a silver thing. It was so far away, but it was just silver there, and it wasn't moving like a plane. It was just there, and it was really strange. Well, then the following day, I think it was, we saw some lights in the trees right next to, like right above our trucks that were parked up there. And that's when the whole fishing rod tried to go in the river, and I dove and got buried in the mud and all that kind of stuff. But save the rod and reel, lost the fish. But
I know that.
But that we saw the lights in the trees, the silver thing up in the sky, and we heard something weird. It sounded like it was it couldn't have been more than 10 feet away from our trucks in our camp. It was like somebody let the air out of an air mattress, and we were the only ones there.
Do you guys does anybody check the time when these weird things happen?
I go out of my way not to check the time ever when I'm camping and fishing.
No, I understand that. And trust me, I understand that 100%. But investigating, when you get into the strange lights, and they're affected, they're strange lights, not only with UFOs and extraterrestrials, but we know that they're there for Dogman. We know that they're there for Bigfoot and some other of these cryptids. There's some weird lights that take place. So try to at the next time you have it, try to have someone go give me a time check. Just say time check. Someone's going to look at their watch and say 9:15, and then when the whole thing's over, say, what time is it? Because the moment when from those lights and then when you hear something by your truck, 2 hours could have gone by and you don't know about it. And if 2 hours go by, then guess what? You have alien children someplace because
Well, it
really
would not be the first missing time incident that I've had.
okay. So then if it's not your first missing time, and I don't know if anybody else has had that kind of missing time, but then you may have been having a checkup, as I like to call them. And
Yeah, I'm still trying to get my mind wrapped around the first one
I'll tell you,
because I'm missing several hours.
several hours. How tall are you again? I was driving down. When we were going to Florida looking for places, we would drive. I like driving. I don't want to get on a plane. I don't have to. And they shut the highway down over in Fayetteville. 95, shut it down. Like, what the hell's going on? Who shuts down a highway? So everybody's out. My wife's out. My 2 daughters are out. I'm an hour away from Florence, South Carolina. That's where my stopping point is. I can do that with my eyes closed. They take me off of the main road onto a country road, 301. 2 lanes, love it. I grew up in that stuff in a northwestern Connecticut. Used to drive and scare the crap out of people. I shut the lights off on the car, and if the moon was right, you just drive without lights. And anybody that's been in the country knows you can play those games, right? And as I'm driving on 301, I wanted a cigarette, and I'm like looking out, and I said, okay, I'm going to pull over. I pull off the side, shut the light off in the interior so I don't wake anybody up. It's like 11:45, and I look out, and I see this really weird craft or thing up in the sky. And if you notice anything about planets and galaxies, they will flicker. Sometimes they twinkle.
Mm-hmm.
Stars twinkle because you're really seeing planets and galaxies, right? This thing wasn't twinkling. This is going red, orange, green, blue, purple, violet, burst, boom. And I'm like, ooh, that's cool. And I'm smoking a cigarette. I'm watching it, and it's getting bigger, and it's getting it feels like it's getting larger. And I'm like, I wish I had my psionic scope, the night vision scope. I would have been recording it. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, this is awesome. And I start thinking, okay, this is very reminiscent of some of the craft I have seen, but I'm right by Fort Bragg, right? Could it be a drone? This is what I'm thinking, right? Next thing I know, I'm in my car, and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of like I dozed off, and I lift my head back up, and looking around, like, did I just fall asleep? And I'm like, how the hell did I get in my car? And I'm like, kind of confused for a second, and then I look over to my Waze, and the Waze goes, it's off. My phone's off, and I tap it, and it goes, do you want to resume? That's what Waze says to you. So I said, yeah, of course I will. And I turn it on, and it says, you'll be at your destination at 4 a.m. I'm an hour away from there. It's now 3 a.m. When I saw that craft, it was 11:45. So from 12, roughly, after I finished my cigarette, maybe 5 to 12, from 12 midnight till 3 a.m, I have no idea what happened.
Wow.
I have no idea. I have 3 people sleeping in the car, 2 of which are my kids. I'm not happy about it.
Yeah.
I'm confused, and I'm like, okay, what the hell? I'm trying, I'm playing investigator on Brian, and I'm driving there, and I'm kind of like, okay, what's going on? Pull in. My wife's like, what time is it? Everybody wakes up, and she has a headache. My 2 kids have headaches. My kids are like horses. They don't have headaches. My oldest one is just, I don't know, great constitution. She's always great. And my head hurts. I said, it's 4 a.m. She goes, what took so long? I said, they shut down the highway. How am I going to tell my wife or my kids, especially my kids, right. Oh, by the way, we were abducted by aliens. I'm not going to do that. Right.
Uh-huh.
So I say, let's go to bed. We go to bed. And the next day we wake up to continue the trip to Florida. And my youngest goes, Dad, can you help me with my shirt? I said, sure. So she's sleeping in bed with my oldest. And when she gets up, she takes off her shirt. And on the bed, the sheet, you see a little bit of a red stain of blood, which is by where her shoulders would be. So I take the shirt off, and I'm looking, there's little red on the shoulders. I look on her back, and over on her right shoulder blade is an indentation. Look like she's sleeping on a BB. And I go, and I feel it, and you can feel there's an indentation. She goes, what's wrong? And I'm like, oh, nothing. I just thought something was on there. I can't tell her. She would freak out. This is before she saw the UFOs, right? So we get dressed, we go down to Florida, we hang out there for about a week, and we go to the area where we're buying a house. It's being built, whatever. And I get a high-pitched ring in my ear. Now, Al will tell you, and I'll tell you, anytime I get a high-pitched sound in my ear, the first thing I do is look up. I don't go with that. Oh, someone's talking about. No. I'm looking up. And I look up over this vista. It's like, sun's kind of setting. And there's that craft. Red, orange, green, blue, purple, violet burst. And I said, I see you. And I said, don't you touch my kids ever again. I'm like, my wife's like, who are you talking to? Talking to extraterrestrials. Now, don't tell her that. But I'm like, you can take me, my wife. We're adults. We can do it. Don't touch my children. Right. So no problem. We hang out with some friends over there. A couple of days later, we're back up in the New York area and we go out. It's a weekend. We go out with my wife's friend and her daughter. And we go to this place in Tarrytown, which is by Sleepy Hollow, right? Where the Headless Horseman is. And we're all sitting outside. And I said, look, I'm going to go and I'll use the restroom and then I'll pay the bill for everybody. Go and come back out. And as I'm coming back out, my wife is there holding a napkin over my oldest face. I'm like, what's going on? So her nose started gushing. I'm like, this kid is like an iron horse, like Lou Gehrig without the disease. She's tough, right? And I'm like, that's weird. And she goes, yeah. And this came out, and she shows me a 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch square piece of like foamy fabric. It's maybe a 16th or a little bit half a 16th thick. My eyes widen. I go in my pocket, and I used to carry all these Ziploc bags during the COVID event, because if I ran out of gloves, I can just turn it inside out, grab a door, whatever it is. I grab it. I have it in there with a tissue, seal it up, try to get the air out. I said, we're going to go home, right? I'm putting it in the freezer, bringing it down to my friend that works at NYU in the lab. I got evidence right now. This thing came out of her nostril. I'm like, I got this dead to rights. And I go back home, we get situated, and I remember I got to put it in there, but I had to do something. Long story short, every time I went to go get that thing, thinking about it now, something prevented me from something else happened, whatever. Whoever put that up there did not want me to have anything to do with it. And over time, literally less than 24 hours, the thing, it wasn't frozen. Any DNA that may have been on there, evidence, contaminated, gone. And when I opened the bag up, it all turned to powder and it went all over the place.
Wow.
Another incident. And I told Al about that. And I was like, holy crap. You have these moments as an investigator where I think everybody, one of us has been on that, where you're like, I got this son of a bitch. I got him right now. This is it. And it's not about fame or fortune. It just answers your question. We're going to get some answers. Something not of this earth is telling you not to do it, and you just wind up not doing it. Wow. It's the weirdest thing. But to this day, just so you know, I tested everybody in my family's blood, see what type they are. And 2 of us are O positive and 2 are O negative. And that's the RH factor. I don't believe RH has a factor in anything to do with extraterrestrials and abductions. And I'm one of 2 people that said that. The other person was Butch Wachowski. God bless you and rest your soul. One of the best investigators I talked to, former law enforcement out of PA. It's not the RH factor. It's your blood,
agree.
how rare it is.
Well, we were talking about that today, weren't we, Rob? We were talking with somebody about.
I was going to jump in here, and I normally don't invade a show, but a couple things. A lot of this is pertinent. Brandy and I did a show earlier with Carter Bouchard, and we talked about his book he released, Baptism by Abduction, today. Yeah, and first of all, I love Brian, and of course Josh, Tex. So and I blew out my knee today, and I'm sitting around doing nothing with my knee propped up. Okay, Brandy and I did this show, and I wanted the insight from Brian, Josh, Tex. because okay, the first half hour of the show today was about Sasquatch, and then he breaks into this alien abduction story that he experienced. Now, Carter Bouchard is 72 years old, as he divulged today on the show, and he was looking back, and he says this started happening 50 years ago. Now, of course, Carter said, "Look, yes, I'm coming on and talking about my abduction for the past several decades. I've spoken only about primarily his Bigfoot experiences, encounters, research, what have you." I'm like, fine, I want to hear a good story. And Brandy and I were sitting through this today, and I'm trying to make heads or tails of it. Now, I love Carter, and this is nothing against Carter. I think it's fantastic, and I recommend everybody go check out the show that we dropped today. But here's the thing, Brian, what you're talking about, and I had to come on, and Brandy said, "Hey, come on later if you want." And I said, "Yeah, I got nothing going on." So Carter was talking about past regressions. He was talking about not past regressions. He had a regressional therapy done, and he was talking about how he found out that he was abducted by an alien many years ago. And he was talking about how, as a young child, he'd always have these images in his head. It was a big deer with big eyes. In his dreams, his current dreams today, as an adult, it's either an elk or a deer, big eyes, big images. And so he went on talking about how he was taken by aliens, alleged grays, because then now the grays, everybody listening, you know what they look like. They got the big eyes. And during this regressional therapy, he was said that was blocked out. The images that he was dreaming about the big deer was actually the aliens that abducted him that replaced his memories with all these images of mammals, deer, elk, wolf, what have you, when they in fact were alien. Now, again, the story, there's a 2-hour show today, you guys, so I'm not getting into all of that. And he started talking about all these things, all these regressions, all these things that as a child growing up, he couldn't quite put a finger on. And after going through this and having this regression therapy, to him today, his mind is now brought full circle that he was abducted. And in fact, he claimed on the show today that he was used in a, how should I say this? What was it? A breeding program, Brandy? I mean, there was
that he was being groomed for that.
He was being groomed for a breeding program. And listen, I like Carter, and I believe, when someone comes to me with a story, I'm going to listen to it. Carter's been on my show several times. I respect the man. And I just found it very intriguing if this happens. And he was talking about the time loss. Supposedly when you have time loss, Brian,
yep,
people immediately say abduction. Well, he's lost periods of time throughout his life. But he was never really into the alien thing. Now, we all know Carter's a woo guy, paranormal guy, Bigfoot researcher, and it took him a long time to come forward with this. And I'm glad that he presented it today on the show. So my question that I'm trying to wrap my hands around, if you're abducted by an alien force, some being from another world, another plane, is that common practice where what they do is they will replace your memories with false memories?
Yes.
So you are not cognizant of what really happened.
So the way this is how this whole abduction thing works. 99.999% of the people that are abducted are done so because your family member has been abducted and so on. I mean, it goes back generation by generation by generation. I believe it's based on the rarity of your blood and how being a universal is great. And you can build from universal. You can build from rarity. There's certain characteristics and features within that are important for cloning and recreation. These are beings that have pretty much decimated their species. They're looking for a way to reclaim their species or increase it. And the breeding program will work that way. Goes back to your science class. when they used to say the X and Y chromosome, right? So you have an X and a Y, then an X and a Y, and then you give you 4 grids. And when you breed, you'll have XX, XY, YX, YY. Okay. XX is human, YY is pure alien. Anything with a Y and an X is a little bit of each. And over time, you can breed out the human and start breeding and having an alien. Everybody that's abducted, 99% of them are abducted and used in a breeding program. Okay. There are some people, and I can introduce you to a guy named Derek Tyler. He will tell you there are certain people that fail in the program. They don't work out, or they cause complications. They wake up, they become more cognizant of what's going on, and they have an opportunity. They get rid of them. Sometimes they drop them off. A lot of times they get rid of them. Bye-bye. You're gone. You disappeared. Like all those people that disappeared in Alaska. They're not all running from the law. They're gone. There's also a small factor, some of our extraterrestrial people that come down here, races, they like the taste of human flesh. Okay? Most people won't talk about it, but there's just as many human mutilations as there are cow and cattle mutilations. And those are some of the rogue ones that go out and they get reeled in. But people that get abducted, their grandmothers got abducted, their mother, their children, their children's children, it'll keep going on. And depending on what your psychological profile is and how you emotionally can handle something will determine if they put in, giant deer and elk in your head or a giant owl, or you start remembering things. You'll get flashes. And then you'll get a guy that will he starts drawing, or he'll just start writing randomly different words. And then when he looks at it, it's like formulas, scientific formulas, or he's drawing, or she's drawing engines of some kind. It depends on your psyche. And then the more, it's really weird, but the more you get abducted, the more they let you remember more of it. And there are some people that are like, okay, I understand what we're doing here. I get it. And they send you the messages and you remember these things. And these people come back as experiencers and they tell you their story. It depends on your psyche. If you're going to freak out, like I saw somebody enter this chat right now who is amazing psychic, doesn't want to have anything to do with aliens. Freaks. Okay. And I don't blame you, because the things they do to acquire the sampling is one, it's, if you're a man, demasculating. I mean, it's no different than rape, basically, for anybody, if you're a man or a woman. It's violating. Okay. I don't know what it's like to carry a child internally. I don't know how many women do, but I can tell you that any miscarriage is an emotional baggage on somebody.
All right. Right.
You know,
Well,
and
I got it. Let me hang on just a second. I just want to ask Josh this, because he's been doing some UFO shows, and what do you think about that? I mean, why would they want to, I guess, impregnate humans? Is that maybe to, I don't know, help save their race or something like that? Or do they just want to invade? What do you think?
Well, we do a show every Saturday, and actually, I'll just ask you this right now, Brian. I'd like to have you come on. I have a slot available.
I'm there. Just let me know the date.
You're available, yeah.
Conflicts.
Definitely on the 23rd, I got something open, and maybe on the 16th too. I'd like to have you come on.
16th, possibly. 23rd, I'll be in Bigfoot country on a big time Bigfoot expedition.
Oh man!
But I'll talk to you about that later too. But let me see what the 16th like.
See what you can do, because I got Jason Bland coming on. I guess that's coming up. Yeah, and then on the 9th, and then I got Michael Anthony. I've had Rob Yox coming on lately, and we've been doing it. This is our second month. Jason kicked it off with us, Jason McLean, and him and Bertram are coming on the 30th. So I didn't know about Carter's. Me and him have talked a couple times, and he was on my show once. And I know that he had a little bit to say about alien abduction, UFO, but we didn't get real into it. But it doesn't surprise me that he would have that, because when Barton and I did our Bigfoot project, we thought we were interviewing everybody for Bigfoot. And the only person out of the first 5 people we interviewed that didn't have some sort of abduction, I think, was Daryl Denton. I think it's everybody else that we interviewed had alien abduction, and we were really surprised by that. It is something that I've been into for a while. I know that last Saturday we got into all kinds of subjects, including the Corey Good thing, which was really disappointing for everybody because,
sorry,
I mean, it like him, and I don't even want. I probably shouldn't say it, but Mike P. from Ontario, something or another, who's also one of those people. He's from the Bigfoot community, but you got the hoaxers and the frauds in every group, and they muddy the waters. They cause a lot of problems, and then they want to come at you sideways and take swipes, and you're like, you're just doing what you got to do because those people are going to do what they're going to do. And somebody asked me this after Saturday's show. They asked me that after Sunday's show. They messaged me and they said, "What do you think about people being paid shills?" And I said, "I think I've just been dealing with some. I think some of these people that came out of nowhere. I mean, I didn't know who the hell these people were, and why did they come after me? Because the closer you get to the truth, the more you put information out there, the more work they're going to put in on you. And I think some of these people really had no dog in the fight. They just jumped in on us because they were there. I think that's their job. I mean, they're literally like, hey, do your job. These people are talking too much about things that are too pertinent to what's real in the real reality. That being said, I know that's a lot to take in, but what I'm going to say, what Brian is talking about, it's even deeper than that. And Brian knows that. I think Brian is spoon feeding you right now. Brian, you and I have talked many times before, in private and on shows. We've been friends for a while. As one of the guys on Facebook said, we sit next to each other in the dungeon. But I mean, because we're aligned in a lot of ways, not just, there's a lot of things that me and Brian are friends with. But I'm going to say this. When you look at what he's talking about, a breeding program, some of them are there doing that. Some of them are taking your whatever to do whatever it is they're going to do. And then some of them look at you as food. And now some of them are actually breeding us. And this is going to sound weird to the uninitiated, but hopefully most of the people here are initiated. They're actually breeding us for food. That's what we are to them. We're cattle. And that is going on. And in particular, the reptilian agenda, it's like an agenda within an agenda within an agenda. And not all of them, because there's different types of reptilian, but the reptilians in particular will eat anything. And in particular, there's one type that enjoys to eat humans. And that's what they do. But they have a bloodline that runs through the human race too.
Yes, they do.
Been here since the Anunnaki. And so a lot of people don't understand that. They don't want to get that deep. They don't get it. They don't understand it. And what Brian says about them, you go missing, you go whatever. There's a Brazilian case in particular comes to mind where they badly mutilated that guy. And I mean, it was awful. And it wasn't the work of serial killers. It was an alien abduction. And some people said, well, it was botched. No, it wasn't botched. They took pleasure in tormenting him and actually killing him and eating part of his body. That is just what they do. And these beings that do the things that they do, it goes beyond the malevolence. It's something that we can't even fathom. And if you want to talk about a hatred for us, some of them, they don't really care. They just look at us as an animal or a talking monkey. But some of them really do have a vendetta and they hate us. Well, you
got the reptilians, right? And the reptilians they're all about taking over this planet, and they've weaseled their way in to the power grid of society, royal families, presidents. I mean, it's beyond belief. The problem is you have last count I heard, which is probably pretty accurate, well over 300, if not 400 different types of species of extraterrestrials. It's not just reptilians, there's multiple different reptilians. Some of them are sorry, Kate. Some of them, they're not as aggressive. The worst reptilians, you're talking about a 12-foot beast of a being. Yes. And as armor on its outside, thinks of us as talking monkeys. IQ well over 400, could destroy you in a heartbeat. Okay, but the problem they have is there are other races that are like, don't even think about it, because there's so many going at them that there's almost like and I pardon the expression, but a Mexican standoff taking place.
Sounds like a Cold War.
Kind of like the Cold War. But some of them, and it's really weird. They worked with humans and on the deep state side, and yes, we did have agreements with certain different races of extraterrestrials. You can abduct people, just give us some technology. So they gave us the Yugo technology, right? They're driving Ferraris and Lambos, and we're driving a Yugo, and we think we're the coolest kids in the planet. We're still about 150 to 200 years ahead technology of all the planet. But you have to understand something. A lot of the little grays, those aren't, they're extraterrestrial biological entities. They're robots, and their IQ is well under 80. And they're the idiots that keep crashing stuff. They're the worker bees. Go over here, do this, go through, because they have the ability to cut through quickly any type of material. They can molecularly change their configuration, go through your wall, grab you, do the same thing to you using their abilities mentally, and then pull you through a wall. But they're dumb as rocks. But they also like to feed on humans. I mean, there's certain characteristics. So we have the deep state type of craft, extraterrestrials. They're abducting people too to continue this narrative for their own purposes. And some of it, like Josh was saying, is we become the grocery store or the food supplier for some of the higher up reptilians. Look, we're going to give you a couple of bodies. You let us do our thing. And they're like, okay, they work it out. But you don't know what they're doing with it. They could be doing other experiments with it. I mean, the stuff is horrific. But to get back to UBMR, in the human DNA, there is something called junk DNA. It's junk to us because we don't know what it is. But to them, that's the perfect car. That's like finding a 67 Chevy, in a barn someplace with like 100 miles on it, and you're like, I just found my dream car and it's cost me $50. That's what it's like for them. So they're using that to build up their races again. But they're also switching over a little bit. Human beings, us as human beings, if we're lucky, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe 3% of our brain we use. If you're lucky. Okay, some people.
That's actually
I heard 1%.
But that's
well.
But at any given time, the way it works, and I don't want to sound like a know-it-all, whatever, but at any given time, you only have like a small percentage of your brain that's lit up. All of the brain is used at some point in time. The problem is that, and you guys may have heard this before, you only have so many strands of DNA, whereas these entities, if you were to look at their brain and you were to scan it, you would see activity going on in all areas at all at once, which doesn't happen with us.
Most of them are triple helixed.
Yeah. So exactly. And so you would see them doing things that like it's almost impossible. In fact, just to sit here and do this, your brain cannot. If you look in the mirror and twirl your fingers around in your ears, okay. I don't know why you would, but if you did that, you would have to be able to focus one or the other. You can't focus them both at the same time. It's really impossible unless you were to have a certain amount of like your brain working, the right hemisphere working with the left. And a lot of people don't know this either. Like the ocular, like your left eye corresponds to the right side of your brain, just like your right eye, So here's a weird thing. And just to put it in perspective and try to bring it home to you, if you were to take your right eye and you covered it and you walked around for like, say a week or two, what would ultimately happen was you would actually, this is a true thing, I'm not joking, you could actually develop a more positive outlook and a more positive, whatever, because the left side of the brain actually is where negative emotions come from. And because the right eye, it's processed by the left side of the brain. We don't know why that is exactly. There's a lot of fancy theories and postulations, but that's not really explaining why they do that. There's even a Hindu sect in southeastern India that actually will walk around with their right eye covered for most of their life so that the positivity will come in, because they believe that the right eye is the evil eye. They don't really know why. They don't know why it works. They don't even know that it corresponds to the left side of the brain, which is where the negative emotions are promoted. They just know that it works. So if you were to take the left eye and cover it, then and that's predominantly where the positivity comes from, is the other side. What would end up happening? You would end up becoming a very negative, cynical person. And there's actually been studies done. One most recently I read was like a Finnish study where they had looked at like people's brains, and they noticed that people who had like their left eye had been put out, they had a more negative, more cynical, more argumentative personality. So that is a very real thing. And the brain is something we can barely comprehend or understand. But I think that if you gain an ascension in your spiritual, like spiritual essence, let's put it that way, you transcend to a certain degree, you can actually overcome the genetics that you were saddled with. And I think that that's part of, not to preach, but that's part of why we're here and what we're doing, is to overcome a certain genetic deficiency. You're throwing those curveballs by the spiritual, God, whatever you want to call it, universe. I believe it's God. I believe that he's in charge. I think he lets others do things, but he's ultimately in charge. And I think that, if you take into consideration everything that we've learned spiritually, that has to override your mental, and then the mental has to override your physical, and ultimately your genetics. Now, what these aliens do and what they've done is they have tampered with and messed with things, kind of like some people when they mess with YouTube and they buy subs and views and all that. What ends up happening, it throws off the algorithms completely, and it never goes back to normal. That's what happens to people who get interrupted and messed with by these aliens. It's the same principle. They're messing with something that will never go back to normal. And anytime these people get into an MRI machine or get a CAT scan or anything, it's going to show abnormalities. I know a lady who was abducted many times, and she recently messaged me back in, I guess it was December, and she said, I had an MRI done, and there's all kinds of screwed up stuff in there, and she also has like heart problems, which she never had before, AFib, things like that, because the being around these beings is just unhealthy.
Right.
They vibrate on a different frequency than we do, and just being in their presence can be not good, to say the least. And so them messing with your brain and messing with your body is the least of the problems, even though all that is a problem, including radiation, poisoning, and other things. It's what they do to your spirit and how they loosen it up and unhinge it. And a lot of abductions are actually of a spiritual nature. When the Greys come into someone's house, like Brian said, they can upset the molecular structure of who you are, what you are. They'll take you out of the building. And sometimes you'll look back and your body is still there. So it's a spiritual abduction that they're doing. But sometimes you'll look back and your body's not there. Your body is literally being demolecularized and being pulled through sheetrock. Now, that's very unhealthy. One of the things that I always thought about when I was a child, not a child, but like a young guy, I used to watch Star Trek every once in a while when it was on. I'm not a big Trekkie, but I always thought how full of crap they were when they would demolecularize and then just come back and everything's normal. Do you know how many problems that would present? You would show up and maybe your ass isn't with you. You know, it's you got left behind.
Galaxy Quest.
Yeah, exactly. Galaxy
Oh my
Quest.
God. Yeah.
You would be having some serious problems because molecularly, we are very complex beings. I mean, even if you were took a slug, a cell of from a animal like a slug who doesn't have a lot of cells to deal with, you would still have problems. I mean, so you're taking a very complex being, you would have severe problems, mental, physical, you would be deformed. You would have, I mean, I'm telling you, your mental, everything. Unless you're doing it with spiritual means.
It reminds me, Josh, it reminds me of watching the remake of The Fly, where where he's working with teleportation, and one of the things he teleports is a steak, and he has his girlfriend taste it, and she's like, "Ooh, it tastes fake," or and that's what it is, because it's a reproduction. It's not you. It's a reproduction.
Reproduced, yes. It's a clone of you.
And so
basically, if you look at what they're doing, though, especially in Britain, where there's a bunch of weirdos over there. If you're from the UK, no offense, but the people in charge, okay, they're doing some really weird stuff, and they're promoting the eating of human flesh. I posted a video about it on my Facebook.
Yes, they are. Stay away from
they are taking, like, say they would take a part of you, Brian, or they take a part of you, Rob, and they said, hey, let's get a little taste of Rob and Brian here. Let's clone some of their
tastes like chicken.
It tastes like chicken. We don't know until we try it, right? Hopefully we never have to. It's either that or they want us to eat bugs. Over here, they're like, bugs are delicious. Well, then why don't you eat them? Because you're the reptilians, let you eat them.
Right.
So they want us to eat human flesh. So they clone it and they grow this genetic, what essentially is a tumor. That's what it essentially is. And they cultivate it. And then they said, look at this shawarma here. Let's eat this. No, I'd rather not. And then they act like it's no big deal. Like, what's the big deal? What's the worst that could happen? Well, being a cannibal would open you up to a lot of big problems, including CJD, which most people don't know what that is. That's Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, which is a prion, a spongylocephaliform that will actually eat corkscrew holes into your brain, causing you to have a cerebral palsy type, which is completely devastates and destroys you. So I would suggest to anybody listening not to even eat spinal or anything from any animal. And when it comes to cows, don't, as we say in Spanish, eat the sesos, which is the brains, because sesos son huevos. That's one of the things that people like to eat in the Mexican culture. Now, one day I walked into this place, Taqueria Randy, and I went in there and I said, hey, I want 2 fajita tacos. And they moved some sesos over and started throwing my eggs and my fajitas on the grill. And I said, no, thank you. I'm good. Sorry, I'm not going to eat that. And he's like, well, the problem is that you got the freaking brains right there on the grill. I don't want that. And even if you cook it completely, it does not destroy the prion, which takes like 1,100 degrees. Oddly enough, you can irradiate it. And if you microwave it long enough, you can destroy it. The problem, though, is that who the hell puts a steak on a grill and then says, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and throw this in the microwave before I eat it? Nobody does that.
Yeah, right.
Who the hell is going to ruin your steak like that? Unless you're some kind of idiot, and you definitely ain't from Texas. So I tell people
I've had some steak that tasted like they did that, but yeah.
And so there's all kinds of problems that can arise with cannibalism. So just for the very fact that it says not to do it in the Bible should be enough for most people. And even if you're not a Bible believer, which a lot of these people aren't, that's fine. Be what you want to be. But there's a lot of nastiness associated with it, this taboo. And it is a very unsafe thing to do. Bloodborne diseases, for example, hepatitis A, B, C, and now we have Delta, right? And then there's HIV and all kinds of other bloodborne illnesses, viruses, all sorts of parasites and everything else, because You can get some of those from pigs, like trichinosis, and you can get some of those from chicken, like salmonella. You can get some of those from cows, like E. coli, but you can also get CJD, which would more than likely, if you ate a person, there would be some severe consequences. But the people that are in charge, who, like we said earlier, are pretty much reptilians, they don't give a damn and they don't care, and it's not going to affect them. So yeah,
we are the cow and the cattle.
You know,
I mean, part of what he was saying, just, when I went to Hawaii, I was talking to the Hawaiians, and I said, just curious, like, why do you got? I mean, that's the number one place for spam. They eat more spam in Hawaii, the Hawaiian Islands, than any place else, apparently. So, what is it? And he goes, well, we used to be cannibals, and it's the closest thing to human flesh.
Long pig.
Think about that, right? But
absolutely. And
interrupt you for 1 second, though. When I was talking about the brain thing, and Josh is right, there are times when we do use both hemispheres, almost 100%. It's when you're at rest. And when we with the physical body's at rest, your mind and consciousness is connecting to source, in my opinion. But if we can do that 24/7, and this is the problem the extraterrestrials have with us, we're very violent, and we're stupid in many ways. They see and know the potential of what we can do with our brain. If we used 100% of our brain, you have no idea what we can do. I mean, we may have the ability to levitate. We may have the ability to travel to interdimensional portals by using our consciousness and not our physical body. There's so much we can do, and we're just wasting it.
Right.
Sorry.
And Brian, too, because there's 5 of us. We all are podcasters. We all love to talk, and I get that, and all the information is fantastic. We're all 5 alpha males, or 4 in the alpha brandy. But I had to revert back before I forgot, and everything makes sense because, again, reverting back to the show with Carter today. I'm an out of the box thinker. I come up with some ideas, and Carter was talking about, we were walking amongst aliens today. We've all walked past them, not knowing it, much with Bigfoot. And then he was talking about his abduction, and he was talking about being masked, how his mind was masked, right? And Brandy and I were listening, and Carter, for the past several decades, has been a habituator with Sasquatch. He's had over 20 families throughout his lifetime that he's religiously had communications with and such. So I'm listening to the show, Brian, Josh, the audience, Tex, Brandy, and I'm sitting there listening, taking it in. And people don't like when I say this. I am not of the opinion that Bigfoot is the friendly forest giant. That's my opinion. I don't think so. Wouldn't trust it as far as I can throw it. I would not habituate with it. I would not attempt communication with it. Okay, that's me. Now, Carter has been doing this throughout his lifetime. Now he's talking about his abduction, the masking of his mind, his thoughts, his memories. And then I asked Carter, what do you think? Is we all heard about Bigfoot, aliens, orbs, I believe everything's interconnected. They're all related in some plane, in some realm. And I told Carter, well, did you ever think about this? Maybe it wasn't the aliens that were masking your memories, but perhaps throughout these years, in consort with cryptids, Bigfoot, they are the ones befriending you that aided in your memory loss, your lapse of memory. Again, that's out of box. That's my thought, because we hear all these stories about, you see a Bigfoot, there's an alien, there's a UFO, there's an orb that morphs into a Bigfoot, morphs into an alien. So my thought is, do you think that in some planes that they do work in consort? And do you think that they are here because they know that humans, they give us this technology, and what do we do with technology? We use it to make weapons of destruction. We weaponize them.
Well,
So
let me jump in. Let me jump in here real quick because
Sure.
what you because we talk about this a lot over on my channel, and everybody knows my view on things. It pisses people off sometimes, and it doesn't sometimes. But anyway, when you're talking about people communicating with these beings, and that's what I'm going to call them, these beings, these creatures, Bigfoot, that type of thing. And I've always said that my big concern is that what if it's not Bigfoot that you're talking to, that you're communicating with, mind speaking with, or whatever? And a lot of people that I've talked to, and I ask, how do you know it's Bigfoot? You normally get one or two answers. One is they told me it was, and the other one is I just know. Well,
Mhm.
and then if you jump over to the paranormal, like if it's all connected, like Rob says, you jump over the paranormal side of things, paranormal 101, spirits are going to lie to you. They'll pretend to be loved ones. They'll pretend to be kids. They'll pretend to be freaking animals. So
Anything.
what is keeping these, what if these things are just pretending to be Bigfoot because you want to communicate with these creatures so bad, that you're looking for, that a lot of us look for, that you open yourself up to that and they get their foot in the door, but they're not really who they say they are.
Yeah.
It could be these aliens. It could be demonic. It could be a lot of things, and you've let them in. That's what worries me. And, I've got very dear friends that I love and respect that claim to communicate with these things, and it worries me.
That's why when you say the Michael prayer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not only you're protecting yourself from the devil, but all evil that prowls the earth. There's a lot of evil that prowled the earth prior to God saying, "Let there be light." And I mean, one of them is the jinn, and they hate humans.
Mm-hmm.
And they will go into any form. They'll go into extraterrestrial, Dogman, Bigfoot, you name it. Whatever makes you, they'll act like it's demonic, and they just want you gone. But another factor is that a lot of times, I was a flesh and blood guy. I had a couple of experiences where this thing went from point A to point B. I believe they're interdimensional. They have the ability to be flesh and blood, change their structure, and go into dimensional. Okay, that's why you have some lights associated with it. Those orbs, it's converting energy to a different source before going
like quantum theory, quantum physics.
Yes,
thing.
It's similar to what Ron Moorhead puts in quantum Bigfoot.
Right.
Okay, and that a lot of that has been not on the Bigfoot side, but proven that it can be done.
Right.
But you have to understand something. If they're going interdimensional and they're traveling that highway, and extraterrestrials are and interdimensionals are, it's kind of like my old days when I used to go into Grand Central Station and go to work. I used to see some trains come in and I knew, oh, that guy's going to Connecticut. I just used to see him all the time at the same time going on the Connecticut train. I don't know who they are, but I know he goes to Connecticut. So when the UFOs are coming interdimensionally and they see these Bigfoot, like, who the hell are these things? Well, guess what? They get abducted just as much as you get abducted. They're studying it all.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's, people said, oh, Bigfoot's the dogs or pets of extraterrestrials. No, they're not. They may over time learn to work together, and have some kind of a relationship. I don't know. I can't prove it, but you bet your ass these extraterrestrials are experimenting with them just as much. Now on the demonic,
I brought that up a long time ago, Brian. It was like, because people are talking, like Rob said, you're talking about, you hear all these reports of, well, I saw a Bigfoot and I saw a spaceship and I saw this and I saw that at the same time, or I saw a Bigfoot getting off of a damn spaceship. And I came to the same conclusion. Why wouldn't they be? Why do they have to? Why are you automatically assuming that they are aliens and not being abducted like we are?
Well, yeah, I mean,
because if we're fascinating to these things, these aliens, why wouldn't Bigfoot be? If they're abducting cows, why in the hell wouldn't you abduct a Bigfoot?
I think they do, though.
You would abduct it all, but there have been reports, and I forgot who. There's a couple of people I was talking to, talking about different extraterrestrial or interdimensional races. Some of them. There's a race that looks like the Wookiee from Star Wars. It's extremely tall. It has more of a Wookiee look than a Bigfoot look. There is a Bigfoot one. There's like something that looks like an Albowitch. It's a smaller Bigfoot. It looks like a baby Bigfoot. They're of a different planet, different dimension, different galaxy, and they visit just as much. What's the chance that some of these Bigfoot that are here aren't descendants of them, just like we may be descendants or an experiment from the Anunnaki or other races Josh was talking about, which I didn't go into, but I could have talked about it as well. That what part of us has been tweaked,
or even like we talked earlier, maybe we are aliens from the future.
Well, it's interesting, and I don't want to get you guys into I don't want to get into issue, so I'm going to use a little bit code. But during a certain event that took place not long ago, and people got something. Babies were being born with black eyes, all black. And they had this like lifeless, soulless look to them. And there's a couple of videos that come out about interviewing some of these extraterrestrials that have been released here and there, bits and pieces. Some are BS, some are legit. And I've heard this too in some of my research from people that have had experiences with them. And they have stated basically, we are you, but in the future. And they talk about a certain point in time where things were changed dramatically and genetically. Could this event that took place and people got certain things, and now these children have like jet black, they look like pools of oil eyes, could that be the genetic portion that has changed the human species so that we evolve into these grays down the line? And that could have been planned not only by individuals that may have wanted to sterilize or depopulate, or it could have been planned by certain extraterrestrials that wanted to change the future outcome and the future offspring to something more of their ilk down the line. It's weird. And it's, I wish we had answers. I mean, a lot of the stuff we talk about is, it's basically a lot of hypothesis and theory until we have a physical, I have a physical Bigfoot. That's a multi-million-dollar prize right there. But I have morals. I don't know if I would go public with it, but I'd love to have that conversation. I mean, those people that say that they have telepathic conversation with these things, I'd love to. I mean, I've had a couple of great experiences, and I wasn't thinking, like, hey, what's your name? I wasn't thinking that. The first time I saw one that was no more than literally probably 2 inches from my feet. Its head was probably 3 feet wide. It was ginormous, and it's sticky. It's looking in my window at 3 a.m. in my summer camp, and I didn't care what its name was or wanted to talk to it. I wanted it away at that point. Now I would be like, there's a couple of people in here be like, where is it? Let's go, and you start running to it, right? But this goes into something like what all we're talking about. I posted something about a really weird message that there was a message that was on a couple of different boards. So I do a lot of research that is not mainstream. And a couple of people have been posting stuff, and they started talking about that this planet is not what you think it is. And we were getting into, Josh, you mentioned them, the Draconians. And they're talking about in certain areas, the military is flying LiDAR, and they're using it's a Teledyne Optic CZMLIL, and they're scanning green lasers, right? And then sometimes the Department of Energy or government officials are putting in some of those black lights. And those black lights are 365 nanometers. That's what their range is on the UV. More relation to the sun than anything else. Someone said something like, pay attention to missing animal posters in your local neighborhood. Pay attention if missing homeless people. Pay attention if the Department of Energy has already installed streetlights in your neck of the wood. So avoid walking your dog at night near drains and sewers. And they tell you that you should stay strapped and carry a 365 nanometer ultraviolet flashlight. And if your dog freaks out, you need to go. And there's another one where they're talking about using copper on ammunition and copper blades. And when I first started hearing this stuff, the first thing that came to me was DEWs, which is direct energy weapons. Group goes over, they scan a certain area, they map it out, plan it out, and then they can hit whatever they want to hit with it. And magically we have wildfires.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, Brian.
No, not a problem. Go ahead.
You're talking about the ultraviolet lights and everything. It made me think of this. Around this area, what I've been seeing is the street lights being replaced with not the white ones, but purple.
Yes, that's what we're talking about.
Or a blue hue.
So, there's a little things that those are 5G capable lighting, receiving and transmitting. And there was talk that there's certain things in certain objects.
Mm-hmm.
And the way to detect if people had something is if you put them underneath the light, there's certain particles, the Lucifer element that's in some of these things gives off a certain glow, like if you had a black light. So they know what's going on underneath your skin, or there's some subatomic tattooing that's taking place. Ball Gates talks about it. But so I was thinking like, DWs and some other stuff, but someone brought up mentioning the Dracos, and they started mentioning, some of the footprints that people are finding. There's a great video. If I can find it, I'll play it for you, out of Tennessee. This footprint is like no footprint I've ever seen. I've seen Dogman footprints. I've seen alligator footprints. I've seen crocodile footprints. This thing it's huge, and it kind of has like a duck feel to it, but more of a spike. And initially I'm like, maybe that's a Dogman. This is very reminiscent of what people describe as a Draco has. And it's a clawed foot. It's a tri-clawed foot. And they're flat and they're big. And someone suggested that these scanners are literally scanning for these things. And the minute the military picks them up, boom, it's tagging them. And that's why this is going on late at night.
I want to show y'all something, because this came out of Germany. Okay. Y'all take a look at this, and I want yours and Josh's opinion on this.
Sure.
Wow.
Yep. I've seen that before.
It's not a Dogman. I don't think it is.
Nope.
No, I don't think it is either.
Let me see if I can find that lovely video.
The Dogman pic that I've seen, and I've gotten a lot of them. They look a little more rounded than that.
Uh-huh.
That looks like something else. I will say this: a mutual friend of mine and Brian's. He probably doesn't care. It's Jody Cook. It's Jody, he's a friend of ours. So when I was at my first conference, and I stood up on the stage, and Daniel Jones, if you go to the Vortex, I gave Daniel Jones, for helping do the AV on that, I gave him permission to post all of our speeches, all of our whatever. And of course, Christopher Jordan did it at the second conference. So it's got mine, and of course your Texas and everybody else's that talked at my conference on the second one. I didn't really do a whole lot with those. I think Jordan put them up where you could kind of rent it or something, and then we took it down or whatever. But you can go to the Vortex and listen to my lecture on there if you want to call it a lecture or whatever. But I admitted on there, on that show, that at one time, and this is the absolute truth, I had what I believe to have been 3 photographs that were given to me back in 2016 from a woman living outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota, not in the city, but that was the closest major city. And she gave us 3 photographs. And I said it on the stage. And I know that Jody, I believe, was one of the people that got it because he was with the NADP. Another one was the guy that I used to work with. And then my former co-host had one. And then I had a set anyway. And there were 2 or 3 other people who I'm not gonna mention, okay, because one of them had some issues and it freaked them out, and let's just say they live in California and they just got freaked out. And then there were a couple other people. So altogether, I guess there were about 7 of us, 6 or 7, I guess. One day, and this is not no joke, I'm not making this up, and Jody was at that conference, and when I said it, I pointed, I was like, Jody was one of them, okay? Those pictures were gone. Now, I still got one photo. And me and my former co-host, and then my nephews, Tony and Anthony, we all tried to find, we did Google search, we did everything we could to find an origin for these pictures. There was nothing. Armando, former 16 years in the military, he tried. We found nothing. I'm sure Jody and his people tried, nothing. There was no precedent for these pictures. You couldn't find anything that where it came from, what it was. And what it looked like was a werewolf with its mouth open. And these pictures were sent by a woman who at that time was like 69 years old. So she doesn't know she's not going to be photoshopping and faking all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And when she sent those pictures, you enlarge them, you could see very clearly. And like I said, I still have one. I took it off of my phone and my computer. And one day, if I'm ever in person with you guys, if I have it, I will show it to you. I will not show that photo any other way. And it shows what looks very similar to what I saw when I was 15. And I think it's an actual Dogman photo. The proportion, like how big this thing's mouth was open, and it was over a fence, a wooden fence. It towered over it. You could see the hands. This was not a costume. But those photos disappeared off of our computers and off of our phones.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not joking. I'm not making that up. And I said that at the conference. And then after that, the guy that I used to work with, he just said, I don't mess with photos, and that's why. I don't put them out there. And he said, when you put that stuff out there, and I never did, he said, that's the quickest way to get them to mess with you. And now I think he was speaking from experience. Now, there was a guy who sent him something, and I got to see something that was extraordinary. It would be almost impossible to fake this. And so when and I don't want to say too much and get too far involved into all this because I just don't want to get, just for whatever. But I don't mess with the photos. I don't put them out there. I get photos almost every day. Not every day, but almost every day. I get photos. And now with AI, they rendered it.
Can't tell.
You can't tell anything. So it's pointless. But back in 2016, what was that, 8 years ago? And you're talking about a lady. And then the lady that we were in contact with, her phone number changed. Tried to mail something to her, got sent back, returned to sender. She was gone, and just nobody knows where she went. Her Facebook got disconnected. Everything got disconnected. I reached out to someone who I believe was her granddaughter. She messaged me back and just said, my grandmother is no longer living there. That's all she said. And then there was no more communication. And then that Facebook got disconnected. What ended up happening with those photos, I have no idea. How they were able to take them off of several people.
Okay. They do it all the time.
Unbelievable.
I've gotten text messages. I've gotten phone calls. It's all zeros. It'll say GOV.
Yeah.
And I've had that before with, I've been in contact with U.S. Marshals, Southern District. It comes up all zeros, the caller ID. And I know I'm talking to a government, whatever. and this comes up. I get a text message, and I open my text message, and there's a video that came out. It's really popular now, but I had it years ago. It takes place in South America, and it's a tall gray talking to a South American military person, and it's a great video. I had it first, and I didn't share it because, like Josh says, some things you don't. There's a certain line you got to know where you're going to cross or not, because the minute you step over that, all bets are off, and they will take you to town.
Yeah,
they'll do what they did to Stan Romanek. If you keep pressing them and they tell you to stop, and you don't stop, they'll find like child porn on your computer. They'll screw you. Okay, they don't take you out anymore. That old lady, they probably would, because she's like, I'm too old. You're not going to do anything to me. Whatever they did with her, they put her in a home, locked her up, whatever. But I've got a chupacabra images from Jersey. They're great. I'm not releasing them.
Yeah,
because it's going to be a big problem.
You know, here's the thing really quickly, Josh, I agree. Brian, Tex, and Brandy can attest to this as well. You know, I've been doing a podcast for a couple of years, Tex 5 years, Brandy and the girls just started, all great shows. I try to not even throw, if I have a guest on and they send me a photo, I'll look at it and I'll do my due diligence. I don't like posting photos on the show, but you know what I do like, and Tex is kind of in the ballpark with me. What I like the most, because it's something you can hear and listen to, and again with AI, I don't know, but the sounds that you might get. Is it a whoop, a howl? Is it a Bigfoot? Is it an alien? That to me is more concrete. Now it might be a fox, it might be a wolf. We don't know what it is, but to me that's more concrete. And I'm further disturbed, though, moving forward in this subject, in this field, in which shows that too can be manipulated.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I, for one, am more for the vocalizations, and I'll play those all day long. And you can come up and surmise your own opinion.
The channels they're doing, they have a new AI movie app where you can say, I want a realistic Bigfoot walking through the snow, leaving a trail, and you won't know it's not. You can do it. You just tell it what you want it to do, and they'll do it. I shared it with you guys. I could play it, but this is one of the videos I posted it yesterday, and you got to see these tracks. Look at those tracks.
Can somebody tell me what the hell that is?
There you go. Look at the size of that thing.
Wow.
Oh,
I've
geez,
never
geez.
ever in my life seen something like that.
Come on, man. That's a giant. Well, not
that
quite.
is just bizarre.
What shit is that?
And sorry about it. I know it was it's always you know, I don't know why it's still back on, but it's these are the things. But if you understand the makeup of what a Draco is, Draconian, it's literally has one of the reasons why we tell you, if you're in the woods and you get a Dogman in front of you and you got a 308, whatever, you get a 45, I don't care what the hell you have, and you shoot at it, you're gonna be dead. Once you're using 50 caliber, you're dead, because the one you're staring at doesn't account for the one that's sneaking up behind you. They don't go out by themselves. And also you have to understand, because I talked to moose hunters about it, that chest they have is so big and thick. Moose hunters know they got to shoot them at an angle because the thickness of the hide acts as a bulletproof vest. And this is one of the reasons why even you know, when you talk to some of the seasoned people and the natives or the indigenous people about these creatures, they tell you, don't take your gun, take your long blade. They want you to take a blade, because it doesn't matter the moose, those bullet holes will hurt, but you can slice that sucker right open with a machete. That's the difference. And when people have, and I've had my encounter no more than 20 feet from these things, and I have 3 machetes on me, I don't have a firearm upstate New York. I'm not licensed up there. They know that if I get one good slice in there, they're done. And that's the problem. That's what the Draconians are doing. And I think they're actually hunting them, and they're coming out subterraneously, and they're coming into the drains, and they're coming out in the sewers because they're hungry. And I think that's what the military is doing at this point. I'd like to hope, but again, my research doesn't end with just one or two theories or statements. I got to keep going and going and going.
Right.
You know, we all do that.
And that's why I enjoy getting all the data you get in. You know, I talked earlier today about, yeah, I've gotten 100 reports on Bigfoot crossing the road, but you know, it's all important for the data, right? Yeah, they're boring stories. You don't like to report on them, but you know, it's a collection of data because there's not 1,000 people lying about certain things, right? And we're all smart enough, I believe, to differentiate a lot of these things. But data is so important today. And I hate to go back to analytics. I'm not an analytics guy, you know, but the more and more that I talk to people, you need the concrete data. And if the same thing is being told over and over again, they all have the same descriptions, they all have the same commonalities. And yeah, there's something that, okay, I can roll with. And so to me, it's important to feel and talk to people on a daily basis, like we all do, and document this stuff. Some could be false, some could be real, and who are we to say it is or isn't, right?
Right. And then you got to figure out, like, some of the older ones are even better because the data,
Yes,
there wasn't the social media aspect where you can disseminate it too quickly. Right.
I agree.
You know, they don't have a TikTok. You when you meet somebody, or when I meet somebody who's an eyewitness, I check their social media. So you have a social media account?
Mhm.
And I look at it and see what they post, see when they post, because that's going to dictate if they're, oh, okay, I got you. They're kind of, you know, they're dabbling in the, I'm gonna use this to bump myself up type of thing. But then you get somebody who's like, what's TikTok? And they don't know what TikTok is. You're like,
Yeah. Got
more
you.
validity, right?
Yep.
You
I
know.
would never use TikTok.
TikTok's interesting.
Yeah, you know, I'm out on.
Some-
You know, I'm somehow on TikTok, and I get all these messages. I don't.
I'll tell you, we had a guy on when I do the beards, and I brought him on, and Greg was not happy about it. And he's a really great guy. His name's Jim. He's out of Canada, and he comes off as the crazy guy that lives at the lighthouse. You know, like he's the drunk. He's the what? You know, don't pay attention to him. He's talking crazy talk. But you know, normally when you see these videos, and I've seen him, and I'm like, he registered because he's hitting on certain mile markers that nobody knows about. Nobody's talking about it. And I've heard them from select individuals that do not, they're very, very particular about who they talk to and what they get out. And they know that if they're going to tell you something, you're not going to reveal it. And when he started hitting on stuff, boom, 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 I was like, oh my God, this guy knows his stuff. And I had to talk to him. Meanwhile, I had a friend that she sent me those videos, and I said, yeah, I just saw him. And she was like, I'm on the phone with him right now. I'm like, get me his number. And, you know, he talks a lot about Galactic Federation and wars that are taking place, and, you know, different races of beings joining it. I'm not a big person on the Galactic Federation. I don't think there's a whole bunch of different extraterrestrials sitting there going, all right, raise your tentacles if you want Chinese tonight. Okay. You know, I
So
just don't see
you don't
that.
believe that you don't believe there's a Senate with 12
No.
people governing
No,
one
no,
of the universes. You're
no, I
not a
just,
subscriber to that theory.
I'm not necessarily a subscriber to it. I do believe there are certain races that are more interested in us because of our potential. There are other races that are interested enough because they need us. But I think the majority of these extraterrestrial beings and interdimensionals, it's black and white. There's no, I mean, there's so many reports of abductions where they will give you the baby that you just had. You know, you like, they'll tell you, someone will tell you, like, you were pregnant, you had a miscarriage. You're like, I never had a miscarriage. I never had even relationship with them. I don't have a boyfriend or whatever. And it all intents and purposes, you were pregnant like 3 months, and then these extraterrestrials give you the child, and you're holding this hybrid child, and they watch and observe you how you emotionally react to it.
Mhm.
Especially if you're a mother or a father, they do it with, but I don't think that I'm not really big on the
But yeah,
Federation. I mean, I think there
you
may
hear
be
this
like
stuff,
a
right?
Deep Space Nine outlet someplace
know?
where people going to have a couple of brews, like in Rob's old bar.
Oh God, yeah. Don't bring it up.
But yeah, no, and it's frightening when you realize that you have missing time, and you're like, okay, how many extraterrestrial kids do I have to watch out for?
Yeah,
Eddie, I think your comment is quite humorous. That's pretty funny. I used to work with a girl, and she used to work with me downtown, and she tried to pay me a lot of money actually to just give her that so she could have a kid. She wanted a kid with me. She's a big girl. I mean, she wasn't just a big heavyset girl. She was, but she was big, and she was interested in making, like, I guess, an NFL football player with me. So that
she was looking for a money.
It's not even about that.
For a money bag. She's looking for a money bag, Josh. You know that.
She was like, "You just need to give me that," and I was like, "Look, I'm not doing that. I'm sorry. I've actually been proposed to many times, but I've often wondered if it was a genetic thing or something. They really just want the somebody's, I mean, I don't know. It's weird. That's a weird thing.
I always say the same thing around this time of year, tax time. I'm like, you want to give me my extraterrestrial children's social security number so I can claim them as dependents? I'd be more than happy to put them on my form.
Oh man,
$13.50 each. It's like,
and you'll get some slappy in the government that makes a mistake and gives it to you.
Can you picture that, sir? You're saying that you have 2 children that are Venetian? Yes, I don't see their mother, but yes, they're Venetian.
And you were part of the breeding program in 84. You were abducted in 82. So yeah, that makes sense.
You know what? It could work.
I will say this, and I was on Matt Ibsch's show. Pray for Matt. He's got an infection in his leg. He's a really good guy. But I was on his show on Tuesday on the town hall thing, and Ry Voss was on there, and JC from Sasquatch Watchers or whatever. Good guys, nice guys. We had a good time. But I said this, when we interviewed Tom Winterton last Thursday too, and Brandy, you remember this. People make their own luck, and everybody that jumps on people, who are doing this and they're hitting every cylinder correctly, everything's firing the way it's supposed to, and then they want to make you sound like you're some sort of insane, crazy person because they don't like what you're saying because you're a poo-poo caca head or whatever, or you got into it with their friend or whatever the hell the problem is. But the truth is the truth. Some people are winners and some people are losers, and I'm not kicking somebody when they're down, but there's a reason why there's some people who are, as they say, Ubermensch, and some people who aren't. I mean, you make it yourself. You do it yourself. I was a self-made person. Nobody gave me anything to get me started. I did everything myself, and I built it myself. And, and so there's all these people out there who are like, well, why you and not me?
Oh yeah.
If you're willing to sacrifice and do what it takes to be me, then you have the right to do and say what you want. But if you're not willing to make that sacrifice and do what it takes to get to where you need to be, then shut the hell up, and that's my thing. I've heard people criticize pretty much everybody on this panel. I haven't heard anybody talk bad about Brandy. I can say that. Nobody's attacked Brandy except for one lunatic, and everybody knows who that is. Yeah. But I've had people attack. We know who attacked Tex, and I've heard people say bad things about BMR. And I'm going like, Boomer never does anything to anybody, but maybe do what's right. Now, me and Brian have had our share of feuds with a lot of people. And 99% of the time, I've been in Brian's corner because Brian will tell you like it is. They don't want to hear it. And one guy we got into it with online, he said, you two sit in the dungeon together. I don't know what dungeon he's talking about, because maybe in class, maybe we sat next to each other in class. They want to sit in the dungeon. That's why they do the things they do and say the things they say, and why they hate capitalism and they're pro-communism, because they want to take what we've built. Because under communism, you, me, Brian, Tex, Brandy, Boomer, we can all build something, and then somebody who doesn't do jack can come along and take a piece of that.
Hey, really quickly, is that my new nickname, Boomer?
I call you Boomer. I think it's a good nickname. BMR.
I like that. I like that. Yeah.
So these people are basically right now they're pseudo communists, but as soon as they get the chance, they're going to open their big traps. They're going to show you who they really are. They're really communists, and we're just going to have a giant bowl of food, and everyone's just going to take enough for themselves, right? And it's all just going to work out perfectly. That's not reality. That's not the reality that any of this exists in. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how you slice it, what you try to, the mental gymnastics that it takes to convince yourself that what someone else built belongs to you. Their research, their work, their hard blood, sweat, and tears. And that's a bunch of bull crap, dude. And I've heard it so many times said that, oh, this guy thinks he's this, he thinks he's that, and blah, 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 blah. But I don't know about you, but I think that, there's a reason why everything happens the way it does. There's a reason why things are happening the way they are. And I agree with what Brian said about the subterranean. I believe that that's been a big part of our history, and it's been manipulating us for a long time. These beings, they live within the earth. And I don't care what anybody says. They can sit there and say whatever they want. That is the absolute truth, because it would be a safer place to live than on the surface of the earth. I mean, it just makes sense. You're on the surface of the earth. You're being bombarded by the sun, and risking a lot of disease, cancer, a lot of things happening to you. You're open. You're out in the elements. The inner earth is a much safer place, and that makes sense. They inhabit the place where it's really most viable for us to live. And most planets too. I think that you would find that most of them, even including their moons, with the exception of maybe a few like Jupiter's moon Europa, it would be untenable to try to live on the surface of those planets. But living within those planets would be perfectly fine. And I think that these people that we call the elites, I do believe that they are prepared, and they will go underground with their whatever they are, their masters or whatever. They think that they're going to be able to coexist.
Sooner than later.
Evil always eats itself. I always say that. It always will happen. It's always going to happen. And these people, these sheeple, as I call them, who point the finger and want to say, you have something and I don't, because they didn't get up every day and work for it. They didn't go to the gym, and they didn't do what they were supposed to do. They didn't do whatever it was that they were supposed to do, and they didn't work when they were supposed to. I got a person that works for me right now calling off all the time, and eventually when they get fired, then they're going to be upset, and they're going to go to whatever group and be like, he fired me for no reason. Why? Because I called off every other day. That's why. And then there's going to be an issue with that. And then I'm going to have to do a huge report on why I dismiss this individual and explain to them that this is what happens. Those are the same people that aren't going to be prepared, that aren't going to even have the slightest clue of what's going on when it happens. And then they're going to cry and say, well, you guys knew. Why didn't you tell me? And we're going to say, we did. And they're still going to say, oh, you liar. You didn't tell us, blah, 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 blah. Because those people will never, ever produce anything, and they will never have anything.
Yep.
And it's a big, giant waste of time. That's what it is. And they don't have to worry about the aliens abducting them, because they don't want anything that they have, because they don't have anything to offer.
You know, it's like those kids that throw a rock at you or something. You're like, why'd you do that? And they're like, I didn't do anything. And they just, I mean, it's just like slam your head against the wall type of thing.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I mean, I just do what I do. I know, Josh, you do what you do. I think everybody here, Brandy, Tex, Boomer.
Boomer.
Subscribe to Boomer's channel. Bigfoot Mr. Rob is now Boomer. The Boomer.
Well,
it's just call me Boomer.
Brunch with Boomer.
Brunch
but
with
you know what we do, and I've always said it. I'm like, I had some people complaining, like, what do I do? I'm like, I don't care if people like me or love me. I try to be a very fair and equitable person. I don't go on the attack. I will not attack you. Any type of issue I had with somebody, trust me, I've made phone call after phone call trying to get you on the phone or let's talk or whatever. You want to play that game? Well, the Russian in me comes out and you're playing Russian roulette and I don't miss. And I that's not how I play things. But, I'm not getting involved in other people's reindeer games either. I mean, I had people when you go on someone's show and I said, listen, I don't go into that East Coast, West Coast rap crap. You have your friends. You don't dictate to me who I'm friendly with and in association with. It's none of your business. And I've always paid everybody the highest respect. I think it's an honor when someone asks you on a broadcast, because they don't have to. And yeah, I've been on TV a few times. Who cares? What was it, like a couple $100 worth of money? That's it. I mean,
Yeah.
And then it's just, would I like to do more TV? Sure. I'd like to have my own show so I can play with like really expensive toys. I want to be able to have
Yes.
my own show, not to make money, but to go to the producers and go, we need that $70,000 FLIR drone. Yeah, we need that.
Yes.
Well,
That's
Yes.
and Brian, for 9 days of filming, 90 hours of film time, and you get a 10 minutes, and an hour show.
Yeah. 10-minute segments, all you get.
You've been there 9 days, 90 plus hours of filming. You're on for 10 minutes. Okay.
Well,
And there's your $100.
Thanks for the $100.
Yeah.
Well, I just got a really good deal. I just got syndicated, so I don't know
Nice.
exactly what all that's going to entail. This week, I think, is like South by Southwest or whatever. The lunatics are here in Austin. Well, there's already lunatics here, but there's going to be more. And so they're probably going to poop in the street, burn down the city, or whatever it is that they do. Throw pee at the cops and whatever, and whatever lives matter this week, whatever. But I know what's going to happen if you look at this lunatic city. I'm eventually going to probably have to be like, look, this is who I am. This is what I am. And, it may come down to people loving me and then the other people hating me. That's just how it's going to be. But I, for now, at least when I announced that I was being syndicated, a lot of people lost their collective minds and were like, why him and not me? And they were so angry and so butthurt. But the people that are my friends.
Congratulations, Josh.
Yeah.
Do what?
Congratulations.
Yeah, the people that are my friends, though, I was thinking, because you guys, I was told by one of the producers day before yesterday, on Monday, when we talked about this, and we're going to meet not this week, but after the end of it because of the South by lunacy. But whenever that happens, we're going to go to their studio, and we can actually film in front of a live studio audience, which is actually another really cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was also told that I could also help get other people to take time slots to get syndicated, so that you will be able to show your shows.
There you go.
Yeah. So I was thinking, because Tex, Blondes and Booze, and Boomer, you guys were very supportive. Barton, another guy, very good people. And Brian, if you get yours, whatever, you guys are my people, and so if I get somewhere and I go what I got to, I go where I got to go, I do what I got to do. I'm not going to forget my friends, and I'm going to take whoever I got to take with me, because there are a lot of people who are starting out and their channels aren't real big, but it's going to get bigger because we're learning now through this war that we went through that a lot of people are fake, and they have these humongous numbers. And then you go and you look at they're like, I have 200,000 subscribers. I am Xerxes. Yeah. Okay. And then you go and you look and they got like 400 views. Really, dude? Because you're all powerful, mighty Xerxes, but yet you only got 400 views. Wow, that's amazing that you did that. What you need to do is go buy the views to catch up to your subs. That's what you need to do, because your algorithms are all effed up. So that's what they. And then I made one, and this guy called me the one that called me a MAGA monkey. I'm offended by him calling me a monkey. But he said this really hateful thing, and he's always talking about the Baltimore Ravens, and then he's always talking about the former president. He's obsessed with him, and so he comes out and attacks me. And these people got mad about Social Blade, and I'm like, you're mad because You're
You're
fake.
exposed.
That's all it is.
Mhm.
And you
Yeah.
can't pretend like you're bigger than you are. And a lot of people were doing that, and they were playing that game. So when Truth from Impromptu Truth and Barton and me had a three-way conversation, and they said, hey, take this Social Blade tool, which I didn't even know existed. Honestly, I'm kind of embarrassed. I didn't know. And they said, take it and plaster it onto Facebook, everywhere, Instagram. I did. And boy, did these people come out of the woodworks. They're like, why are you doing this to me? I'm like, I don't even know you, dude. Okay. I didn't know that you were fake, but now I do. It's a good thing I know.
Yeah.
So me thinking that I was like this regular channel, whatever, turns out that you're not. You're one of the bigger people because you have real people. You don't use AI generated stories, fake crap. And then you have real likes, real comments, real views, and real subs. And so, yeah, that the proof is in the pudding. And so you're going to be where you're supposed to be. We're going to have our third conference. It's going to be big. Ken's already signed on. And of course, Lyle agreed to it when he was on, Blondes of Booze. We talked about it, and Lyle threw it out there in November. And I was actually kind of hoping that would be the case. So it was kind of an inside curveball there. But the point is, we're going to do it again. It's going to happen again. And Brian, I hope you bring your butt down to Texas this time and show up.
I just hope it's not. I just hope it's not a Labor Day weekend.
It's not going to be a Labor Day weekend. It's going to be the first weekend of November.
Oh.
November.
That's possibly doable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll look at my calendar because you have no idea. I was trying to get to the first one, and my wife was working up in New York, and I was stuck with the kids. And I can't, I couldn't take him to that conference because my youngest, the amount of money I would have had to spend on psychiatry bills after a dog, it would have been just like, oh God. So, and then the other one was, it was weird timing and the old heart attack, and I wasn't supposed to travel. And so, but I'm going to be doing a lot more stuff. I'm doing some sizzle reel work. I'm trying to, I've got the ear of a couple of good TV producers and movie producers, and I'm going to throw some that way. And like I was telling Tex and Brandy, I'm all about honey and karma, and I want to see everybody's face that's on here on TV, and I want to bring in, no offense to Lyle and Ken, I love those guys and I'm friendly with them, but I want new blood, and I'm all about bringing, going to Texas and saying, hey, let's go to this area of Texas. And I want real people and real stories and real evidence. And that is the whole thing. I don't want a writer's embellishment or any of that crap. I don't want to do it. I want people filming and recording 24/7 while we're out in the field and get real stuff.
Boy, do we have some evidence for you.
Yeah. But that's the form I want. The whole idea is I love the subject. I want answers. You guys want answers. And if you have stuff, I want the spotlight to be shined on you and say, here, look at Tex. Here, we're down with Josh Turner. We're going out to this church. Pray for us, because if it happens the way he says it is, it's going to be crazy. Yeah. But like, I said, I think all of you, I was trying to explain to Craig on the Three Beards. I said, you got to start, I've been begging to invite people on that are other podcasters and hosts, because this is how you intermingle. And I was describing the network you guys have, and I'm describing how I said it to Josh first time. I don't blow smoke people up anybody's ass. I said, you put on a quality product, quality production. You have real people there. And it's awesome. And Josh, you do a great job with it. You all do a great job with it. And I love the fact that you intermingle. Let's share the fantasy. You know what? You can't tow a car with one link of a chain. You can only tow it with several links or more.
And I can actually corroborate that, Brian, because you just got me a fantastic guest, which Katie was going to be on my show.
She's
and
out of this world.
Yeah, and I thank you for that, by the way.
Sent it to the ladies as well, by the way.
Yeah, well,
we've got
it first. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's because we booked so far in advance. You got it first. That's the only reason why.
I'm a fly by the seat of my pants guy. Okay,
and I'm not doing this. I'm nobody. I guess I'm. I am who I am. I will not put my name behind somebody that isn't the real deal.
Right.
And I put my reputation on it. I promise you, super amazing person, and going to blow you away with what.
Yeah,
what
well, I
she can
can't
do in
wait.
their
She's coming on, and I
investigation.
think
So,
in 2 or 3 weeks she's
Yeah.
coming on.
Well,
everybody's
guys, I think it is we have hit that time of the night.
We have.
yeah, I got to go to the shooting range tomorrow, folks. By the way,
It's
Josh,
almost like we need to do this again because I mean I
Yes.
think we could go to another 2-3 hours just
Mm-hmm.
on another subject. It doesn't have to be
Well, you know,
UFOs or Bigfoot. We could choose something else and go a couple
got the
hours.
price of silver
hey,
going.
let me throw this out there, because I might as well. Hey, I'm on a roll. Might as well do it here with Brian too, because
Right.
I ambushed Bart earlier. Brian, Monday, if you ain't doing nothing, hey, we're having a panel show with me, Josh, and Barton, and Brandy.
Is that this Monday?
That
And
is this Monday.
Boomer's going to be there too, Tex.
Okay, cool.
You always
Surprise,
forget me.
guys. Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll show up. Just send me the link.
I think
Like that,
we just
Love
shocked
to.
Josh again because he's like this Monday.
Yeah, I mean it's fine. I just
Josh Turner's on 8 days a week.
yeah,
Yeah,
I actually
at 8 days a week.
I canceled Wednesdays. I was like, you know what? I just got too much, and then I got literally about 20 Dogman interviews I'm going to do, trying to get them to tell them on the show, But the problem is not everybody can tell a good story, and when you get somebody to tell a story,
Yeah.
and this isn't a
that is a
knock on the
problem.
guy I used to work with, but I can't sit through that show because of the people that are trying to tell the story. A lot of times it's horrible. There's 10 minutes of something, and then there's an hour of just I just can't do it. I'd rather shoot my toes off than I can't do it. I've tried.
It is so
I mean-
true. Like, Al can tell a great story. I could tell Al
Oh,
a story. And the Squatch Father, even though they told me the Squatch Father at one point. He just knows how to tell the story properly.
Hey,
Josh
listen,
tells a great story too.
hey,
you
Brian,
know,
yeah, y'all do. Hey, really quick about the Squatch Father. He was on my show.
Yeah, I know.
Tuesday night. And I got to tell you something. I was on with Krista. She was my co-host on Tuesday nights, right after PRT, after your pod. I swear it was the easiest interview I did because I said 3 things and the man just rolled with this fabulous, elaborate story, and I didn't want to interrupt him. It was so fantastic. So hats off to him for that.
But that's also, it's a blessing and a curse having people that can tell a story and like to talk, because it's like if you get me, Josh, Barton, Rob, Brandy, Brian, and people are even suggesting Al on on one show, it had to be an 8-hour freaking show.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We have to take intermissions to sleep.
None of us. There's a few of us here tonight that we don't like to stop once we get started.
Yeah, I know, Tex.
Hey, Brian, you used to be on the show with Ron Murphy, right?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I'm trying to get him to do some more stuff, but I get these people like, I have a show. Can you do an hour? And I laugh. An hour? That's like an appetizer.
An hour's a warm up, man.
One of the longest shows I ever did. I invented Robert Vanderbroek out of the Netherlands. It was a 7-hour show.
Wow.
At the end of the show, when Robert's like, I got to go to bed because he's actually producing different symbols on his forehead. I get my guy Johnny on there. He goes, I said, wow, Johnny, that was a great show. Robert's great. He goes, did I tell you about the tentacles? And I'm like, what? And apparently Robert got tentacles from extraterrestrials. I'm like, Johnny, we're on for 7 hours. You couldn't tell me that 4 hours in? I mean,
right.
And you can just talk and talk. And then the problem is there's some people, and no disrespect to people doing some of the shows, they don't know how to control an interview.
Right.
You need and sometimes you just have to, you take control of someone else's show. You're not meaning to, but I usually come full circle. They'll ask you a question, it'll go into something else.
There's some people you got to pull back the reins on.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, you're off topic a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, we had somebody on one of the shows that we interviewed with Ron, and she's a wonderful lady. She worked for the department, the government. It's like pulling teeth. I mean, I swear to God, it was just like, oh my God, is this over? And thank God it wasn't video. It was just the audio version podcast. Runs like, I'm dying here. And I'm like, so am I.
It's like so you had a Bigfoot encounter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love that answer. Yep.
Yup, Tex sure did. Dead air for 10 minutes, which you can't stand.
Yeah.
Could you please elaborate on that a little
Like,
bit?
what did he look like?
Well, it was big.
Well,
I gotta admit, I'll
Brown.
be the first to admit I've gone off topic many times. And
No, Josh, going off topic is cool, Josh, as long as you keep talking. But to go off topic and have dead air is like a sin, you know.
I've gone off
the thing is, though, I mean, like, you know, people will criticize me sometimes when I'll have a guest on, and they'll be like, "The guest was on for an hour and a half, and you talked for an hour," and I'm like, "Because I know the guest and I know what they have to say." And what they have to say isn't going to fill the rest of that time.
Right.
They do bring up some good points, but I know going into it how much they can say and what they can't say. And what the people don't realize is that, you know, you're doing your best to try to fill that air. Otherwise, it's not going to be good.
There's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than having a 2-hour show of the guy that you have on your show does 40 minutes of information. So
That's
yeah,
Yeah.
you got to work harder
Well,
to keep the show interesting.
But something
Right,
I've
right.
done this, and I know Josh has done this. They'll ask you a question, and it'll be about ancient Egypt. And by the time you're finished with it, you talk about Krishna, Amun Ra, going to the Mongolians, and you swing it back to Tartaria, and then they're just like, you just answered 3 of my questions, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was fake.
I didn't mean to. I'm so sorry. Well, but speaking of all of this,
In case
Tex
in
and I
point,
do have to get up very early in the
I was
morning.
about to say, case in point, we
sorry.
tried to end this 20 minutes ago.
Okay, Rob.
Well, what we'll do, me and Brandon's going to leave and let Rob, Josh, and
We're
Brian
just going to
keep on
leave.
going.
Just keep it going.
No, it's just
Rob,
we
Rob,
both
lock
get
up
up and
when
we
you're
work
done, will you?
super early in the morning.
No,
And
I'm done. This is my second show today. I can.
You know, I got to do my. Trust me, I can go longer, but I got to get up early.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, tomorrow night on the show, we do have Paranormal Among Us, Paul, and we do have, of course, BMR. We're going to do a question and answer panel type thing tomorrow evening. We'll hope that Crystal come back, but if she's not, well, we'll keep praying for her.
Yeah.
And then right after us, then we have, of course, Josh on PRT comes on live, so don't miss that one. And that's all I got for tomorrow. Anyone else?
No, I'm good.
No,
I think that's it.
We're good.
check
all
me out
right.
on Saturday too. I got a
Oh
Saturday
yeah,
show
don't forget
and
Saturday. Well, I usually
Sunday
mention you on
show.
Saturday on Friday.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm on all 3 nights.
All right.
Awesome.
So
I gotta get all you
everybody
guys
mark
on
that
the
on your
team here
calendars.
for
PRT Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
There you go.
All right,
And good luck.
everybody. From
Good night,
everybody here at
everybody.
Blondes and Booze, and thank you, Brian, again for coming on. We appreciate
pleasure.
you,
Thank you.
Josh. We appreciate you, and of course, BMR. I'll see you tomorrow. Tex, thank you very much for staying up late. Good night, everybody. We'll see you later.
Great show.